Hello boys! Today I'm going to share with you a tragic tale about how drugs nearly ruined my life and how they could possibly ruin yours too. My name is Sam Harborne and my mission is to lead young men out of life's trenches. And that includes warning them about potential traps that they could possibly fall into. You don't want to be treading on that bouncing Betty or walking into that Claymore, boys. I want to preface this video by saying that I was so certain that I would never ever touch any drugs. I had it drilled into my skull from a very young age that drugs are bad, okay? The thing is, if you had asked me 2 or so years ago if I would ever touch any drugs, I would have spoke with such conviction and told you absolutely not. But I still ended up falling into that trap. So please don't watch this video and think, I'm going to listen to Sam because he's got interesting stories, but I won't worry about this. This won't be an issue for me. Please listen and have the humility to understand that you probably are fallible to this sort of trap as well. So how do we get to this point of me in this picture here, sat on a bench outside, K-holing. If you don't know what K-holing is, don't worry, we're going to go into it later. Well, I was super down bad, and I had really bad social anxiety. I didn't have any friends, and I also had clinical depression. And this led me down a very dark pathway in my life where I was a shut-in for 5 years, and my drug problem started when I was about 22 or 23 years old. You might be exposed to this trap from as young as 15 in the UK anyway. But for me, it came late because I was a late bloomer because I didn't leave my house and I didn't have any friends. But by the time I was 22 or 23 years old, I was so deprived socially that I took what I could get, and I didn't really understand social interactions, and I didn't pick up on social cues, and I was just majorly behind. I was lagging behind in many areas of life. And I reached a point where I realized if I want to continue growing, I need to connect with more people. And this is when my mentor, Hamza, told me, Sam, you should message some old school friends or something and try and connect with those guys, see what they're doing. Maybe you can make friends that way. And that's exactly what I did. I messaged 2 of my friends which I went to school with, and out of everyone I did go to school with, these guys probably treated me the best. They didn't treat me perfectly, you know. If the circumstances were right, they would probably be a little bit mean to me, maybe. But these were the closest people I had to friends. And I sent them a message on Instagram, bearing in mind they had seen me on Instagram already, and I was constantly sad posting, so they knew that I was really down bad. And I sent them a message like, hey, I've been thinking about you guys recently, and I wondered if you wanted to meet up and go out at some point. And they sent me a very kind message back saying, yeah, Sam, you know what? We've been thinking about you as well. We should go out. That'd be fun. So that's what we did. The first time we met up again, we went to an arcade bar that's in the city centre of Birmingham, and we had an awesome time. I had a few drinks. There's me face first on the table. Not that I drank loads, it's just that I'm a complete lightweight, but I had a good time, and it was wholesome enough, and I felt like I was doing it. I was outside in the real world, and don't get me wrong, this bar we went to, it was very quiet. It was a very quiet bar, but it was massive progress for me, and my friends here were very kind to me as well, because what we did was we went out to a few softball environments first because they knew I had very bad social anxiety. These guys were balls deep on their going to raves, very busy, packed out venues and clubs and so on and so forth, festivals. They knew I wasn't ready for that, so they eased me into it by taking me to a few quieter softball spots before sending me off into the rave where I would probably have a panic attack, and that was very kind of them. This takes me to my first clubbing experience with these guys. We went to Pop World. I don't know if that's a worldwide thing, but certainly in the UK, everyone in the UK will know what Pop World is. It's probably the most white girl club you could get. It's very, very entry level, very normie. They're playing Taylor Swift and Teenage Dirtbag and shit like that. And it was fun. You know what, man? I'll be the first one to say it. I'll admit it, guys. I can get down some fucking Taylor Swift, man, okay? Especially when I hadn't fucking been out of my house before this point, so I was like, yeah, you know what, I'll take some fucking Taylor Swift. And at this point, drugs weren't even on the table for me, okay, just to make that clear. I was just drinking. And I want to talk quickly about this 30-year-old woman who was hovering around me. She gave me very strange energy. She sat next to me in a smoking area and started just rubbing my back, and I was just a very socially awkward kid at this point. What the fuck was she doing there? Why was a 30-plus-year-old 22-year-old woman hitting up a 22-year-old incredibly socially awkward young man in pop world. Anyway, when I was sat in the smoking area, there were mumblings and grumblings about taking a pill, an ecstasy pill to be specific. I was drunk and my friends were talking to me about it like, oh man, you know what would be really fucking funny, Sam, if we got you on a pill, man? That would be so fucking funny. Like, you'd probably have such a good time, man. It'd be so funny to see you on a pill, Sam. And obviously I was curious, what would it feel like? And they just say to me like, oh my god, I remember my first pill and how fucking amazing it was. It was the best day of my life and it was just phenomenal. And yeah, you know what, Sam, I don't want to get you into drugs or anything, but you should try a pill. You have to try it. It's just so insane. You have to try this pill. And I was out, I was having fun, and there's this weird sort of edginess in the UK night culture. And I was just like, you know what? Yeah, I'm edgy. Yeah, I listen to Arctic Monkeys. Yeah, I smoke cigarettes. I'll try a pill. I don't care. I'll try a fucking pill. I'm just gonna try it. I'm just gonna try. I want to see what it feels like, how fucking amazing it is, and then it's over with. Cool. Awesome. Okay. And it was somewhere in between this club experience where we mentioned a pill and the next time we went to a club, okay, where we were in a pub together, which is like just a little shitty bar, basically. And it was in this pub where I realized something quite dark, actually. The entire time we had been hanging out, we'd been hanging out for a few months now, my friends were actually sneaking off to the bathroom of wherever we were, and they were snorting ketamine the whole time. They were probably doing it on the night out where we met at that bar arcade. I just wasn't clued up enough to realize what was going on because I was sat in this pub and they were handing a wallet to one another. And I didn't understand why, and I just asked them, guys, why do you keep trading wallets? What is that? And then they showed me, and I was kind of taken aback. The entire time that we'd been hanging out together, they were doing ketamine, they were snorting ketamine, and even at things as silly and whimsical as going to the cinema to watch a film, they were doing ketamine. Looking back at it now, it makes me sad, because I don't even know what was real and what was sort of just things happening because they were under the influence. This leads me onto the fateful night, which my friends had hyped up so much, and that was going to this club in Birmingham city centre and dropping a pill. I remember the anxiety I felt being handed that pill and immediately thinking I was like a massive criminal and that I needed to like be careful with the police were around the corner. And to be fair to my friends, they were as responsible as you could get when it came to taking drugs responsibly. So what they did, and what they taught me to do as well, was take half of a pill, down it with water, wait to come up, which is basically wait for the effects of the drug to kick in. Transitioning from your normal state into high as fuck can be quite jarring. So if you do a lot of it straight away, that transition is a lot harder. So if you do half, you can figure out where you're at with it, and then you can drop the other half once you're comfortable. And that's what I did. So I bit into the pill, took half, downed it with water, entered the club, and holy fuck, I felt incredible. I felt like I was on cloud nine. I was so socially connected with so many people. I felt totally free of any anxiety that I previously had about being in these social environments. I loved everyone. I was going up to people and just hugging them, and fucking people looked at me and just thought I was insane. I remember there was this one girl who just looked at me and she goes to my friends, "Here's pinging, right?" And my friends were like, "Yeah." And that's because I didn't realize it, but when you take a pill, MDMA, ecstasy, your eyes literally just go massive. And my eyes looked crazy. There were points where it got so intense that I just started to feel quite anxious, and that's quite normal when you're on ecstasy. So I'd go to the smoking area, and my friends, once again being the responsible drug takers that they were, would sort of just talk me through it. So I would ride that wave of anxiety, and then I'd be all good again. I'd be feeling amazing again. And during that time when I was in the smoking area, I was just sat on the floor like a retard. And I'm pretty sure I sat in gum as well. So I had gum fucking attached to my ass for the rest of the night. I didn't realize it. Anyway, I was looking at my eyes in my phone. I got my phone out and I looked at my camera and I saw my eyes and I was like, holy fuck, is that what I look like? I look fucking nuts. On top of that, this is a night where I learned about a pretty strange phenomena where when you take ecstasy, your dick just stops working. You could absolutely desperately need a piss and you just won't be able to piss. You just cannot piss. And your dick also shrivels up. Imagine you're like freezing cold. Your dick is like fresh out the fucking cold shower or some shit. Your dick is like shriveled up. That's what it's like. I got my dick out and I was like, Jesus, bro, I know it's not like a shower, it's more of a grower, but this is fucking next level. And I just could not piss. I was in the urinal like, piss, piss, fucking piss, and it wouldn't piss. And I was just needed a piss the whole night, which is quite jarring, but it's fine, I guess. Eventually I did piss near the end of the night, but like, Jesus Christ. But overall, it was fucking an incredible, incredible night. What I didn't realize is that throughout the whole night, I had like this underlying sense of anxiety, which I was so overwhelmed with serotonin that I didn't even realize it, but I had like crazy anxiety the whole night. I didn't even know though. But when I left the club, I looked at my hand and I had been picking at my finger like this when you're nervous the entire night, and my entire hand was bloody. Entirely bloody. But I just didn't realize it because I was so wired on this ecstasy. But overall, it was fucking awesome. It was an awesome time, amazing, I feel amazing, oh my god, I have so many friends, I'm so well connected socially for the first time in my life. I wouldn't mind doing that again, is what I thought coming out of that situation. So that's what I did. I started to do MDMA, or ecstasy, once every 2 weeks or so. Whenever I'd go out with my friends to the club or to raves, I started going to raves as well. And just to be clear, once every 2 weeks for ecstasy isn't that bad compared to what you see in your average university student. University students, I've heard stories from my friends where they did ecstasy 4 times a week for 2 years while at university, and their brains get absolutely fucking destroyed from doing it. Their serotonin is just under siege. It's so hard for them to just find joy in the small, whimsical things in life anymore. Like, for example, a tree. Like, oh, that's a cool tree. Awesome. That it's become so much harder to, like, just find that sense of childlike joy in things once you've abused ecstasy or MDMA to this point, because you've just fucking demolished your brain, and it takes a big reset to get back to baseline. But slowly and surely, it became completely and utterly normal and fun for me to go out to drum and bass raves once every week, every 2 weeks, and to do ecstasy. It became normal. So normal. Like, literally just la-di-da-di-da, yeah, I'm going out on the weekend and I'm going to do hard drugs. Bearing in mind, before, my hard anti-drug stance. And to be fair, I do genuinely like drum and bass music. I have a sick time when I go out to a drum and bass place and I have a great dance. It's just that during this period of time, it was stacked with also doing these drugs, and that's no good. So now I'm going to introduce you guys to something called pre-drinks, which I think is just like a very nitty thing that we do in the UK. But basically, before you go out to a club or a rave, you want to meet round someone's house or in their university accommodation if you're in uni, or you go to a pub or something like that, and you actually pre-drink. So you get wavy and you get lit before you actually go to the event that you're going out for. The reason why I think that's a thing is because I found in these environments, when I'm around all of these people, and I'm going to be quite frank now, it's usually very low quality people, because they're doing this for a fucking reason, usually. And you're around these insanely low quality environments. You're in a pub full of drunk people, or people who are going to the bathroom and doing keys of cocaine and ketamine. You're going to feel a massive hit to your self-esteem by literally just sharing those environments with people while being completely sober. Imagine that. You genuinely have to drink or do drugs to feel comfortable sharing an environment with people. Let me put it this way. Would 99.9999% of the people who go to nightclubs go to these clubs if the entire night they had a spotlight on them? They wouldn't. You want to feel that sense of, fuck it, I'm not taking responsibility for things tonight vibe, right? That's what you want. And drinking and doing drugs gives you that. And if you're not doing that in those environments, you're just thinking to yourself the whole time, what the fuck am I doing here? Oh my god, this is horrible. Being there and not being off your head fucks you up. You get anxiety, you get genuine anxiety. You're like, oh my god, this is horrible. So what you're chasing during this pre-drinking session and during the time where you're out as well is that feeling that you're in the groove, you're in the flow of things, you're having a good time. Usually, because these are such low quality environments, you're chasing that feeling through substances, right? Being around good people isn't enough for you, and the people you're around aren't necessarily good because you're just sharing the same literal drugs with each other. So guys, what happens if you aren't in that feeling that I'm talking about, that feeling, but you don't have access to your ecstasy, your drug of choice? And alcohol is expensive, to be honest. I genuinely used to cope with my drug use by saying, I save so much money by just doing an ecstasy pill, because I spend £10 on a pill, and then I'm fun, and then I'm good for the night. Whereas I could spend upwards of £150 to £250 on alcohol to have a good time. So I don't have my ecstasy because I'm not usually the one that bought the ecstasy anyway. I would just get it from my friends who bought it for me. They don't have ecstasy for me now. What the fuck am I going to do? I'm in this pre-drink location and I'm not in the feeling, and I'm starting to feel very anxious and I'm starting to question, what the fuck am I doing here? Oh my god, this is so weird. Well, you start to do what's available to you, and that's usually ketamine and cocaine if you're in the UK. Ketamine's massive in the UK. And because everyone's so great around you and they're all so authentically lovely and sharing and caring, then they're quite happy to usually share their ketamine or cocaine with you for the sake of being in the flow, the vibe. So you end up doing these hard drugs. That's what happened to me. Soon enough, I was doing these hard drugs nearly every weekend. And as you can see, this is a picture of me in the background holding up a sign on my phone, which I made on Snapchat. I would write pills, and then I'd make it big on my phone, and I'd hold it up, and I'd just show it around until someone approached me and sold me a pill. But slowly and surely, thoughts started to creep up on me, because I am a very conscious person. I like to think a lot. I spend a lot of time in my head. And I was spending a significant amount of time in these environments, and I was banking a lot of my social interactions on these events that I was going to, and doing these drugs together. I started to think, how much of these interactions that I'm sharing with my friends are actually real? How much of them are spawned from authentic connection? Because truth be told, I went from having zero social life to having a seemingly very vibrant social life with lots of friends and very well connected in the UK drum and bass circuit. But quite frankly, when we were outside of the rave, we didn't share many interests. I tried to get them into going to the gym with me, and they didn't really care for that. They were into superhero films, Marvel, DC, and I'm not really into that either. I like Batman, but outside of that, I don't give a shit about Marvel. I don't give a shit about football or boxing, and we didn't share many interests outside of going out and doing drugs together. I mean, our interactions were always friendly, but they were always weirdly cold as well, compared to the interactions that we would have in the smoking area of a club or a rave that we're at, where we're both on MDMA or ecstasy. Like, those interactions would be hyper, oh man, I love you so much, bro, fuck. And then outside of it, it'd just be like friendly. This brings me to the night which really woke me up to the fact that this was an issue now. I was actually out with a completely different group of friends. These weren't the friends which got me into drugs in the first place, but these were friends I actually met online, but we were meeting in real life now. Half of the friends don't do drugs, good for them. The other half, though, were a little bit crazy, and they had this weird university frat boy kind of vibe. Now, the issue with this night is that I acquired myself a bag of cocaine, and you can tell by this picture here the mentality that I'm in. I'm so lost in the sauce. I'm so proud of the fact that I am holding this bag of cocaine, and I think it's so cool and epic. But the reality was, I had never bought my own drugs at this point. I'd always relied on someone else to give me their drugs. This was a dangerous turning point because I had acquired my own drug. And once I've learned how to acquire my own drugs, I can do it whenever I want. Very dangerous turning point. We went out this night and I had my bag of cocaine. I had done a few bumps of cocaine before we left to go to the club. We were going to a very normie club. We were walking on our way and I was genuinely so wired, I was just skipping through the streets, like just completely crazy, lunatic cocaine energy. As the night went on, we were in this normie club. It was okay. But the problem is, there started to be some drama, some really cringe shit between two girls that we were with, and it basically splintered off the group. So most of the guys went home, but me and this one friend, we actually stayed out together for a bit longer anyway. Because frankly, the idea of going home at this point was just not very good. When you're on cocaine, you have so much insane energy that it's like, the idea of going home and going to bed just didn't appeal to me at all, and my friend who I was with felt the same. He didn't want to go home yet, so we stayed. But eventually, after mucking around for a little bit longer, we came home. It was around 3 a.m., 3:30 a.m., and the rest of the guys who went home were just sat on the sofa, all just AFK doing balloons like a bunch of NPCs. Just like, yeah, well, I guess we'll just sit here and do drugs for no reason. And this is where my issues arise because, I mean, firstly, I bought my own bag of cocaine, which is a dangerous turning point. But then also, on the same fucking night, I started to mix my drugs, which is something I had never done before. And I had already made the conscious decision, oh yeah, that's probably a bad idea to mix these drugs. But for some fuck all reason, I was just a loose cannon this night. It was probably because of the cocaine. I didn't do much cocaine before this because cocaine is way more expensive than ketamine. But I was on this coke and I was just fucking crazy. So I started spamming balloons like a fucking lunatic because my friend had actually bought a balloon canister with the cans and the balloons. We could just make as many as we wanted, which is like super nitty. It's the nittiest shit ever. I have no idea how many balloons I did. What I do know is I was so off my head at this point that my friends, they were recording me sporadically and they were just like laughing at me, kind of like this uni frat vibe, like I say, like, oh, look, it's being a dummy, woo, yeah, you know what I mean? This was super retarded. Balloons in general are super retarded because my strength is my brain. What you do with a balloon, if you don't know, it's something called NOS. And when you breathe it in, it gives you an incredibly tense high for about 30 seconds. But it does that by actually starving your fucking brain of oxygen, which is just killing brain cells territory. Super retarded. And doing a bunch of them in one night after doing cocaine was a ridiculous idea. But to make things worse, to make my nightmare cocktail even worse, I also did ketamine. My friend had a big fuck off bag of ketamine, the biggest bag of ketamine I've ever seen in my fucking life. So you can imagine, the cocktail was cocaine, NOS, and ketamine. Terrible, terrible combination. They all just counter each other. And Jesus Christ, it was a nightmare. And my friend gave me a massive key. I didn't realize how big this key was he gave me. It was a key for a wheel lock that you put on a car. It was a massive key. I didn't realize how much ketamine would actually get on the key, because if you don't know, usually you use your key to scoop out your fucking powdered substance and then you put it in your nose and you snort it. He gave me this massive key and he did say to me, to be fair, Sam, careful, it's a massive key, but I was too wired. I was like, what, I'm just invincible, bro, don't worry about it. Took the biggest fucking bump of ketamine and snorted it, and I passed out. Honestly, I'm going to have a hard time recollecting some of this now because I was on a different fucking planet. What I can tell you is that there's videos of me sat on a bench outside somewhere, which I have no recollection of at all. I have fucking no recollection of it. But apparently, from what I've been told, we went outside, we sat on a bench, we messed around a bit there, then we went back inside and we went on the sofa again. And when I went on the sofa, I once again passed out. And this is where the most confusing 2 hours of my life begins. And I'm putting this picture in the background. I'm really not fucking proud of this image. I actually hate looking at it, but it's very important that you look at the reality of doing drugs. Like this, you look like a fucking retard. Look at this fucking idiot, seriously. And I thought I was invincible, okay? I woke up from passing out and I was speaking to my friends on the sofa who are still there for 20 minutes or so. But something started to feel very fucking weird. Something started to feel very weird and off, okay? So what I did when I started to feel this is weird, I pulled my phone out and I opened my camera app and I pointed it at where my friends were, and they weren't there. My friends weren't fucking there. That's when I realized I had been speaking to myself for 20 minutes. There's no one there. I just imagined them there. okay? They were already in bed. When I passed out, they went to bed. But for the next 2 hours or so, I was on a completely different planet because I was no longer passed out. I was now just K-holed. And I'll try and tell you what the K-hole is. The K-hole is basically when you've done too much ketamine and you're on a completely different planet. The K-hole is different from everyone. Every single time it's different. It can be a very negative thing. It can be an awesome thing. For me, it was very fucking negative, I'll tell you that much. Because I was freaked the fuck out. Because once again, I just gaslit myself into believing I was speaking to my friends the whole time. They weren't fucking there. They were asleep in bed, which freaked me the fuck out, you can imagine. But my phone was keeping me in reality. It was grounding me to reality at this point. I was on a different planet, but this phone in my hand, it's real. So I was just sort of sat there mumbling to myself, and I was recording videos of myself, and I have these videos, and they are just terrible to watch. They're terrible, and that's where I got this screen grab from. You can imagine, like, I'm just mumbling to myself the whole time. It is awful, and I've got all of this fucking shit all over my nose the whole time. And also, when you're doing these drugs, it fucks your jaw up as well, and you're like fucking gurning and turning your jaw and shit. It is terrible videos. But recording these videos kept me grounded in reality. It gave me some levels of comfort, like, I'm okay, I'm not fucking dead, that's good, I'm glad I'm not dead. But how I felt was just completely indescribable, honestly. And once again, I'll have a hard time trying to talk you through what was going on, outside of the fact that I was very disoriented. I didn't really know what was real and what wasn't real, and I was just completely on a different planet. And it was like that for 2 hours until eventually I stumbled into the bathroom because I could barely walk. I could barely fucking walk. I have a video on my phone of me trying to walk, and I'm a fucking mess. But eventually I got to the bathroom. The peak of the drug settled, and I threw up several times, and then I once again passed out. And then I woke up the next day on the sofa, so unbelievably confused, but I still had this weird energy about me because I still had my friends around me, and they were like, oh, that happened to you, bro? That's crazy, man. Ha ha, lol, lol, it's so funny, bro. Yo, ha ha, lol. This fucking uni frat boy energy. So I still carried that sort of energy as well, even though, to be honest with you, it was pretty fucking terrible. I called my friend Hamza, who had convinced me to reach out to some old friends to try and socialize in the first place. And I told Hamza, kind of in a silly and whimsical way, like, oh yeah, bro, and then this happened, like, oh yeah. And he had a very different energy to what he usually had towards me. Because me and Hamza were very, very close, and I told him pretty much everything that was going on in my life, and I was a complete fucking dipshit at this point, so there was a lot of, like, very real and raw things that we shared with one another, and this was just another one of them. But his energy towards me was very different compared to how it usually was. He was actually concerned. I think Hamza at this point saw the trajectory that I was on, and Hamza being someone who went down this trajectory himself during university, he was doing drugs and being a retard and getting into all of these scenarios and these low quality environments with these low quality people. He began to get quite fucking concerned with me. Like, I told him I went to an after party and did a bunch of balloons, and he was like, Jesus, bro, that's pretty fucking nitty. He was concerned that I was going to reach a point of no return, and I hadn't realized how much of a slippery slope I had fallen down at this point. I didn't still realize that this was as bad as it was because it was so normal to me. Like I say, it's just normal. Like, drug culture is baked into UK culture at this point. It's really fucked up. But I held Hamza's opinion in very high regard, so it actually really took me aback when he responded this way, especially since this is someone who I told all of my troubles with, all of them, everyone, unfiltered. But this one, he was just like, bro, you gotta change. And I was like, well, shit, okay, wow, this means a lot to me. And this is the moment where it all began to click for me. Look at my sweaty face here in the middle of a rave, just the sweatiest man on earth. All of what I had been going through in the last 9 months was me just chasing a sense of connection with other human beings, because I went from having no connection at all, and I didn't know truly what connection meant. This is what I thought it was supposed to be like. But when Hamza said that to me, something clicked with me, and I realized this is very false and inauthentic, and a lot of these people that I'm connecting with are just very broken, and they're running away from some sense of responsibility in their lives. And then I looked back to how I was just 9 months ago, where I was so certain, and I spoke with so much conviction on how strongly I felt about never doing drugs. And here I am. I've just done cocaine, ketamine, and nos in the same night. And I just spoke to people who weren't real for 20 minutes. I went from 0 drugs to the most hardcore party drugs you could possibly get. And I fell into this trap because I didn't know any better. And I had a crazy scarcity mindset around friendships and connections because I'd never truly connected with someone on a deep level before. But then I realized, well, actually, I have. And this is the most brutal comparison in the history of the world. But I started to compare the connections that I had cultivated with my friends, Hamza and Yanis, Hamza on the left, Yanis on the right, to the connections that I had made in these party environments. And I realized, holy fuck, it is day and night. I don't share really anything authentic with these people who I'm sharing these hard drugs with at all. And I gain so much more out of life by hanging out with Yanis and Hamza rather than going to these drug dens and doing hardcore ket with these guys who care about me while we're on ecstasy, but outside of that, it's like, they don't really care. They're not sliding into my DMs and asking me how I am. And then I asked myself, why did I even get into all of this? And the reason is because I wanted that human connection. I wanted to grow, and I wanted to feel loved. But I already had that at this point. I had cultivated these friendships with Hamza and Yanis, and I realized these party relationships and this environment was no longer serving me, and I actually just became a victim of it almost. You could argue that I was a victim of it, but I think I did pull myself out of it before it became too much of an issue, because quite frankly, probably a lot of the guys who I would go out and do drugs with are probably doing the exact same shit right now as we speak. And they had been doing it for years prior before I started as well. So you can see how this shit fucking destroys lives. This is what gave me the strength and the wisdom to step away from that life. And now this is my warning to you watching this. Even if you do think that you're invincible to this type of trap, like I say, I was so certain I would never do drugs like this ever. And it turned out that wasn't the case. I actually fell into this trap, much like how everyone else falls into this trap. Let me ask you this. Do you think any of the people in those environments grew up thinking, yeah, when I get older, I'm going to do hard drugs in the drum and bass rave? They probably didn't. They probably fell into a trap. Much like how you think, yes, I'm not going to do drugs when I'm older. And it can start off innocent enough, but it can become a very, very slippery slope. And if you don't have good people around you who you look up to, because the reason it clicked for me is because I held Hamza's opinion in such high regard as well. If it was someone else telling it me who I didn't even really respect that much, it'd be like, whatever. But because I respected Hamza so much, I took his opinion in such high regard, it clicked for me. Do you have people like that around you is the question. You need people like that around you. And if you don't, you're very, very fallible to this trap, and you should be very fucking careful, because it can just start off with one pill, just trying the innocent pill and seeing what it's like, and it can very quickly divulge into this shit. Okay, I hope that was helpful, guys. If that video helps at least one of you not touch hard drugs in your life, I feel content with that. Boys, if you want to learn how to make money online from the comfort of your bedroom or traveling the world with your laptop, it's much better than doing cocaine and ketamine, promise you that. I teach over 500 young men how to make money online through video editing. And as you can see on the screen, we're getting excellent results inside of my Academy of Excellence. You could be next. Take care, boys.